What is up, everyone? And in today's video, I tried to write a script for it, and usually most of my videos are scripted because I do ramble and say ums and ahs a lot, as you probably have seen in my streams, and I kind of have brain fog sometimes when talking. But this video is going to be kind of striking a chord with something that is probably my main issue with Helldivers as a whole, and it's something that I kind of had like a little bit of a rant on stream, and I'll probably turn into its own little funny video because it is kind of funny. I want to preface this by saying that just because I have a complaint with the game or that I have a sort of problem with how something is being handled within this game doesn't mean, one, that I hate the developers or that I hate the game. It feels kind of weird that I even have to say this, that I can't just make a simple complaint about something without having to preface it with so much bullshit. But to be honest, like I'm gonna have to, because I don't want people getting the wrong idea. I don't hate the game. To be honest, Helldivers at its weakest is some of the strongest live service content that you can get compared to every other game out there that is live service. I mean, just look at the competition that's overly monetized, drip feeding content, while on the flip side, you have Helldivers that has premium currency that's very earnable. You have constantly new content coming in with just a $40 asking price at the lowest end for basically the entire rest of your time, because if you really are hell-bent on never spending another dime, you really don't have to. But all that to say is that there is obviously still problems with Helldivers 2. It is not the perfect godsend game that we would love it to be. And my major problem with it is, as I've said many times before, is I need the galactic war map, or the war table, the story. I need this mechanic to be slightly reworked, values to be readjusted, or possibly ways that players can have more agency when engaging with the map. I'm all for scripted events. I completely understand that, you know, there is some things in a story that you want to be told to you, or that you want to convey to the player base. But how I currently feel at the moment is that Helldivers was sold to me, at least from my understanding, was that it was going to be a war game kind of with very minimal roleplay aspects, where you and your community are all a bunch of soldiers in a giant, or a small cogs in a larger machine, and based on your working together, and like your actions will actually affect the overall story and how the game is going to be evolving over time. Actually, like one of those true the world will evolve with your choices kind of thing, not like other games like Destiny 2. And when that was sold to me, I was like, I'm all on board. I love this idea. It sounds amazing. And overall, that has still rung true to this day. But I've noticed that, especially with this new major order with Angel's Venture and Merdia, that obviously there's a scripted event that Arrowhead wants to tell, and I have no problem with scripted events. However, we need to have a little bit more of an understanding on how to do these, because it is very disheartening when we have around 50,000 players on, and there is 90,000 players on the total game at the moment. So that means there is over 50% of players on a single planet, and you're still losing it. I understand that you may want us to lose the MO because you want Angel's Venture to get blown up, which is going to be happening now in the next 15 hours, at least while I'm recording this. But it's kind of the best way to put it is that I've even explained it on stream, was that this game is, to me at least, a kind of like a D&D situation, where while there's no main player party, you know, we're all players in this game. There's obviously a GM, there's Joel, whoever it is. There's writers who are obviously trying to convey a story overall, but you do have influences on how that story is told out with your own actions as a community. However, the worst experience you can have in a D&D game, I don't know if there's anyone who's been out there, is when you have a DM who wants to ham fist. I'm not saying so much that that's what's happening here per se, even though it is a little bit the truth of what is actually happening, if I really think about it, but it just comes off a little bit of a dick. But you've ever had a DM just basically say, this is how I want the story to go, and no matter what you do, no matter how well you play, how well you roll, no matter how you can try to talk yourself out of a situation, no matter what you do, that is the outcome that they have deemed so, because either this doesn't apply to Arrowhead devs, but maybe the DM isn't creative enough, or they have a story that they want to tell, and since they have a story that they want to tell, they really aren't looking for your input on how to evolve the story from both a collaborative player and storyteller perspective. And that's kind of how sometimes it feels on Helldivers. It's very frustrating, with especially with squids, but it can be frustrating when you have like, I think even still to this day, yeah, I'm looking at the Helldivers 2 companion app, and while I'm recording this, there's still 9,000 Helldivers on Errata Prime, and it was peaking at 12,000. Now, I've had people in my chat say that people who don't do the MO should be penalized, and while that is the knee-jerk reaction to have, that you want these people to be penalized, I truly don't think that that should be the case, because these people are trying to play the game how they enjoy it. If the MO is squids and you don't want to do squids, who am I to force you to play the game how I want you to play? That's not fair to you. However, we do need to come up with either MOs to be more fair. We need to come up with systems to be a little bit more realistic, because it is extremely unfair that we will have a level 4 invasion, have more than 50% of the player base on that world, and be losing by over an hour decay rate. Like, that's a little ridiculous to me that we're losing by so much, which then just breeds the question, which is, oh, I guess this isn't a scripted event, which most likely these are scripted events. However, there's better ways to get your story across than just ham-fisting it and making it feel like there is no player, like, feedback, or not feedback, but there's no way that the players can influence the story. You can do scripted events in D&D. I mean, from the few campaigns I've played, there has been events that even when I was a DM, I made sure that really there was no way around it that was going to happen, if no ifs, ands, or buts. However, you still let players try to get their little input in on the outcome of it. Maybe it doesn't stop Merdia, but at least having it to where it's kind of fair would be a little bit more, understandable. This may come off a little bit like nonsensical and a ranty a little bit, which I can understand if it does, and I'm apologizing for it being a little bit more rambly. But I just really hope that in the future we are a little bit more careful with the scripted events, because it really does kill the vibe for a lot of us MO players, who I don't want to see people who don't do the MO be penalized. But on the other hand, I do need some realism to the possible achievements that we can do. Like, it needs to be realistic for us to win some of these worlds. I'm not saying that I need to win all the time, and that if it doesn't go my way, I'm just gonna bitch and complain, because I'm all right with losing. There's no problem with me losing, but I don't like it when the chips are so heavily stacked against us that it's actually impossible, because sometimes it really just feels like Arrowhead requires us to have launch numbers, and that's the only way we can win sometimes. But that's kind of all I got today, guys. I just want to get that off my chest and just put that out there in the ether, and hopefully somehow this ends up on some developers or even the CEOs like feed on YouTube, and it gets picked up and they listen to it, and they maybe just have a change of heart, or maybe just sparks a conversation. It doesn't change anything, but at least there's a conversation to be had, and we just maybe see scripted events maybe take a little bit more of we have a little bit more of an influence on it. But besides that, tell me what you guys think down below. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.